So, hello to you all. I haven't used Hopin before, so I'm not really sure how it works, whether there's one person, I should say, or 18. I'm not really sure. Anyway, hi to you all. Nice to meet you. Good to see you here. I thank you very much for attending. It's an honor and pleasure to be able to present something on Medium Day. And it's also a great pleasure and an honor to be asked by Medium. So I'd like to thank Medium as well for asking me to present something today. Um, Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's afternoon where I am. I'm in my homeland, Ireland, so it's afternoon. Um, so I'll get stuck in straight away. I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction with regards to myself, my background, and then I'll talk about the presentation, which is controversy, honesty, and truth. And then I'll give a bit of a breakdown, an overview of what I'm going to discuss and talk about, and then I'll go into each of the different sections. So firstly, my name is Shane Fitzgerald, otherwise known as Harold de Gauche on Medium. And I would say it's somewhat ironic, given that my talk is called Controversy, Honesty, and Truth, that I have a pseudonym. And my real name is actually Shane Fitzgerald. Anyway, that's just the way it is, I suppose. So I'm a writer of fiction and non-fiction. I write short stories, novels, and poetry. But on Medium, mostly I write non-fiction, as some of you probably already know. I joined Medium maybe about 4 years ago, but I really only became active on Medium about a year and a half ago, something like that. My presentation today is called Controversy, Honesty, and Truth. Why did I choose this title and this theme? I was trying to, when I was asked by Medium to talk about, to give a presentation for Medium Day, I was trying to rack my brains and think about, well, what would be interesting and what would be maybe not cliched to talk about. And I kind of, after a while, thought about maybe what informs my writing, why do I write about what I write about, what are my values as such. And as anybody who's designed a questionnaire before probably knows, thinking about somebody's values or even kind of finding what they are is not that easy. It's easy enough to ascertain somebody's opinion. You can just ask them what are their values. Or their values are a lot deeper, lie a lot deeper inside a person. It's harder to kind of access them and get to the essence of what they are specifically. So controversy, honesty, and truth. These are the three things that I identified as maybe not the only things that exist, but three things that at the moment I thought would be, are kind of central to what I choose to write about and why I choose to write about these topics. Controversy, by controversy, I don't mean shock for the sake of shock or some empty epitaph or just prodding or poking people or anything like that. I mean tackling divisive issues and trying to, in my own small way, facilitate conversations about hot topics, controversial themes, divisive issues, because a lot of what's happening over the last maybe 10, 15 years is people are no longer talking to each other and are just existing in their own little groups, talking only to people who happen to share the views and values that they have. So that's the controversy, the first kind of idea. The second value is honesty, and it relates to the first because I think if you're going to be talking about these kinds of topics and themes, you don't want to make things worse. You don't want to be, another person churning out misinformation and fake news and empty kind of words and hate as such. So while I do talk about these topics like human rights or the Russo-Ukrainian war or wokeism or whatever, I do always write my articles in an honest way, in that if I'm going to make strong claims, well, it's beholden on me to give strong evidence. This is the Hitchens razor says this, basically is all about this, that strong claims and exceptionally strong claims especially require exceptionally strong evidence. So statistics, hyperlinks, links, references to other authors, thinkers, presenting the other side. in an honest and respectful way. And this is central to what I do. That if I'm going to talk about these kinds of topics, well, I'm going to do it in an honest, adult, respectful, civil, humane, grown up, and respectful way. So that's the honesty and truth. The last value, which is the most important, informs the preceding two. Truth is what I'm always really after, I suppose, to try and understand our reality, the human condition, life, politics, philosophy, step by step, trying to understand things in a deeper way. Not necessarily finding some all-encompassing, all-swallowing truth that can that kind of represent or contain all reality. I don't think that exists. But trying to grow and get towards a greater and deeper understanding of what is humanity through writing, talking to people, recalibrating your own views, growing, changing, and slowly getting toward closer, hopefully a little bit, to some important truths in life. So I'm going to jump in then now and talk a little bit more about controversy. Okay, so controversy, as I said, one of the phenomena that has appeared over the last 10 to 15 years is the phenomenon of echo chambers. People funneling off and being funneled off into their own groups where those they talk to only share their values and views. And I think this is kind of the antithesis of democracy. Democracy is about dialogue, compromise, discussion, dialectics, sharing views, tolerance of other people's views. And echo chambers are, completely at odds with the central values of democracy. So one of the reasons why I like to talk about these kinds of themes in my non-fiction articles and break them down, open them up, expose them to some scrutiny is to try and, in my own small and humble way, facilitate discussions and dialectics where people share their views, people disagree with me. Sometimes you'll find in my articles that hopefully they're pretty interesting, the articles too, and relatively erudite. But I think you'll find that maybe the most interesting part is sometimes the comments. There are a lot of astute, smart, insightful people there who scrutinize my ideas and agree with some things, sometimes disagree with other things quite often, and then sometimes the way it's quite useful for me and for everybody else to be disagreed with and to be scrutinized themselves. And this is, as long as people do it in a respectful way, a civil, respectful, grown-up way, I'm all for this, and I think it's very, very important. So this is one of the reasons why I should say I like to deal with these kinds of divisive issues that cause disagreement and divergence in terms of people's views and ideas. I also notice, as regards these controversial topics, that they can be quite useful, at least for me, in terms of boosts. I've had 4 boosts so far, and 3 of them were for these kinds of topics. The first one was about Western propaganda in Western countries, obviously, and how ideology and propaganda manifest in our societies. And obviously at a time when most of the West is focused on Russia and demonizing Russia, rather than talking about maybe having a little bit of putting a little bit of effort into also scrutinizing what's happening in our countries and how we also have some issues over here. I tried to get it published in a publication, but either they had a very slow few days or a very fast few days, but they never got back to me. So I decided just to publish it myself, and it ended up getting boosted the first time I got the boost, and I was quite impressed, I will say, by Medium, that they would choose such a topic, at such a time, and that was boosted. And I had one boost with the Simpsons article, a listicle, so light-hearted, nothing edgy or controversial. And then the other 2 were wokeism and human rights, which is at the moment. So both of these 3 are all hot topics, divisive issues, and they've been quite successful for me, and I quite enjoy breaking them down for the aforementioned reasons. So that's the controversy part, I suppose. As I said, if you're going to be controversial like this, then you need to back it up with honesty and an honest examination of the evidence and of information. So I have a lot of hyperlinks in my articles, a lot of a lot of references to other writers. I present the other side. I try to expound on my views and what I think about things, but I always try to back up my claims quite strongly with evidence. And as I said before, this is Hitchens' razor, which states that strong claims should be backed up by strong evidence. And this is one of the this is a maxim that I would write with. Part of honesty also is researching a lot, sometimes ditching some sources because they just aren't, they're too dodgy or they're too not rigorous enough. And also being willing to honestly and in a fair way appraise your own views and values. And sometimes I have to, sometimes I recalibrate my thinking and my thoughts based on comments, based on interaction with people. And that happens quite a lot. I would say that I've definitely shifted in some of my views and maybe even values a little bit over the years. And so I think this is the second value that I would have. Like, honestly, appraising the information and coming to tackle the information in an honest way. No fake news, no clickbait, no casuistry, sophistry, sneakiness, just generally trying to be as honest as you can and presenting different sides, and then presenting my own as well. And then in the comments, being willing to engage with people to allow them to scrutinize what I think. And this is beneficial for me and for them, and hopefully for some of the people reading as well. So this is the honesty, the second value. The third value is the most important, which informs the two preceding, which is truth. And truth is, why is it more important than the other two? Why is it the most important? Well, I suppose it's something that's always been important for me as a person, a thinker, a writer, and trying to, I was always interested in philosophy and trying to get towards these truths that, lie at the heart of humanity. And, some of these truths may unify us, and some of them may actually divide us a little bit as well. I don't think there's some kind of ultimate single truth that is all encompassing, overarching, and all swallowing. And I don't think that exists. But moving towards understanding reality in a clearer, more comprehensive way through writing, thinking, listening to others, engaging with others. So this would definitely lie at the heart of my my will to write, the choices that I write, the choices for articles that I write about, trying to address blind spots in my own thinking, this would be the most central value, I would say. The other two are not secondary in terms or ancillary, but they are definitely something that stand atop the will towards the will to understand things in a truer, deeper way, and the movement towards truth itself. So this would be the most important, I would say. Okay, so as an overview, these are my three values. I would say, as I understand it, as I understood it, based on thinking about it at the moment, and the choices I make with regard to the articles I write about. Controversy, not for the sake of shock, but to help in my own small way facilitate conversations, not heuristics where you're trying to beat people, but dialectics where you're trying to learn from each other, be exposed to other people's views with a view to moving forward together, hopefully towards a better understanding of each other and the issue itself. So this is why I like to talk about these topics and address these topics in my articles. Controversy, if you're going to be controversial and if you're going to talk about these kinds of divisive issues, you do need to do it in an adult, respectful, honest, grown-up, mature and fair-minded way. If you don't, I think you're just making things worse. So no fake news, no clickbait. I think one person accused me of clickbait once and somebody else defended me in the article. I think I've only been accused maybe once, because usually I write about a topic. And I will, whatever's in the title, I will write about that specifically. Sometimes the issue is bigger than the title of my article, and I can't, for instance, the human rights article at present, I wasn't able to go into complete detail on what I think. The first part was me dissecting why I think that these are problematic, universal human rights, conceptually and in terms of practice. And I did that. Maybe in an upcoming article, I will talk more about what I actually think, how rights should be grounded internationally and domestically. So that's the controversy. Honesty as well, as I said, needs to be the main kind of idea. If you're going to write about these kind of topics, controversy, then honesty, you need to do it in an honest way. And lastly, truth, as I've said before, is the central value which informs everything else. This is the kind of the mission, or my own mission anyway. I'm not sure if other people subscribe to such a mission, but this would be my kind of idea. It's 16 minutes now, so I've kind of gone over a little bit. I don't know how hopping works. It's a bit of an experiment for me. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to open up the floor to questions, thoughts, anything you want to say, anything you want to talk about or ask me. It's not a lecture. You can just say whatever you wish. So it's a bit of an experiment, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen. So let's go for it. Announce Q&A. So I have announced Q&A, and now I'm waiting for a Q or a T, a thought, or a C, a comment. I think some questions are in review, and I'm waiting for them to appear at the moment. While I'm waiting for the questions, thank you for listening to me. It was a pleasure to be asked, and it's a real pleasure. I can say truly and meaningfully that it's a real pleasure to be able to give a presentation about some of the stuff that I write about, and I hope it was relatively interesting and relatively informative and maybe useful. So I'm still waiting on these questions and reviews. Perhaps next year, or if we do have another medium day, I'll be asked again. So I have one question which I think hasn't been reviewed yet, but I do have one. What will my next article be about, by E.T.? Thank you very much for the question. Second. So I'm not receiving any of the questions. Announce Q&A, I've already pressed it, confirm and notify. So I have a question anyway that was put to me by ET. This is the technical side of the presentation, which is I think I'm better at the first part, which is just speaking. The first question, ET's question, what will your next article be about? It's a good question. I thought about writing 3 reasons why Steve Jobs isn't a genius. I never bought into Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. Even though Elon Musk kind of agrees with some of the stuff that I might agree with, I don't really buy into the idea that the richer you are, kind of the smarter you are. Some people seem to inherently think that billionaires must have some kind of smartness to them, but I think there's there's some luck involved in becoming a millionaire, but a lot of luck involved in becoming a billionaire. And so Steve Jobs, I never understood what was with him. He didn't seem to do much. He didn't create anything to do with Apple. It was a lot of army technology. He didn't create the the Apple Mac or anything like that. He seems to be like a very fancy snake oil salesman in my view. So maybe I would write about that. I would also write about what I do believe in terms of rights, how I think rights should be grounded. I think I wrote about in the last article why I don't think universal human rights conceptually are the best idea and why they're quite dangerous in practice. I suppose I would like to write an article about what I do believe in and how I think we could go forward in a more practical kind of way that wouldn't involve the sort of dangerous implications that universal human rights has to sovereignty, self-determination, territorial integrity, and humanitarian intervention, just wars, all these kinds of things. So I would write about that. The second question, from ET again, thank you for sharing your values. You're very welcome. It was enjoyable to share them with you. What helps you be confident in choosing controversial topics for your articles and remain honest and truthful? I think I just always liked to go against the grain in terms of, not for any empty reason or silly reason or vacuous reason, but just because I kind of, maybe that was that way inclined, that I kind of wanted to get towards truth and not towards what some people think is truth, or conventional wisdom, what conventional wisdom says is truth. So I suppose it's kind of some form of self-belief, and the more I kind of grow as a writer and thinker, the more I kind of believe that I have something to offer, and I'm confident enough in being able to address these kinds of things and write about them. So I'm waiting for another question. They're not coming through, the questions. Here they all are. So a question, Jennifer Pierce. Okay, there are a few questions. I'll try to get through them. It could be a lack of technical skills on my part, but I can't find your profile on Medium, and I have no sense of your background. Can you give a little overview? Also, much of what I personally see on Medium are articles about how to make money. Perhaps this is because of what my feed is sending to me. My question is, why aren't more people writing about the climate, about human migration, about the crucial challenges humanity currently faces? Very good question. I think they are. You just need to be able to find them. I can direct you. I'll follow you, and I can direct you to a lot of people who would be writing about these things. I agree. The how to make money articles drive me crazy. There's so many of them, and they're so boring. And you know, like, they're not true as well. Like 90% of them are just, they're making, it's like when billionaires write books, the way mostly when a billionaire writes a book, it's mostly them making money out of you buying the book. It's not them really imparting knowledge that's going to help you do anything. So it's trickery and chicanery. My background, I have a background in science originally, and then politics, so that would be my background in politics. I've lived in a few different countries: Russia, Spain, and Ireland, my homeland, Australia as well. I've written for a lot of years, and mostly though probably a fiction, and then eventually a bit later on I started to write a Medium non-fiction. Probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I kind of just decided to do it, and I never really thought I could. But then I realized maybe I could write non-fiction, and then I started to unite philosophy and politics and become more comfortable. And over the last year and a half, I kind of getting a bit more, my early articles on suicide were like, the last one is 34 minutes. It's like way too long for Medium, and I don't expect anyone to read that. But now it's usually 10 minutes. I get into one of these serious topics, 10 minutes, and I think they're relatively well written and well kind of what would you say? Well, kind of refined down to the sort of right size for those kinds of serious topics. I'll follow you, Jennifer Pierce, and I'll try to maybe direct you to some of these people. There are a lot of people who write about much more interesting stuff than how to make money. Next question, Brody Fitzgerald. Can you tell us your favorite article you've written and why? I don't have a single favorite one, Brody. Thanks for your comment as well. I don't have I don't have a single favorite, but there's a lot of ones I kind of like. I like the fiction ones just because they're special kind of to me. The human rights one at present is pretty good. The climate change one I quite like as well. The propaganda one is the kind of most successful, I suppose, and I kind of think maybe it was kind of quite agile in a way. I got in enough into the theme and then got out. Maybe some of the articles are a bit heavy. Megaloliberalism and the parts about understanding the kind of the hegemonic and anti-hegemonic view as regards Russia, Ukraine, and the West. I think that's in depth and very interesting, but it's quite in depth. I'm not sure if everyone would be interested in that. So it's hard to say I'd have a single article that would be my favorite, but like the climate one, the more in-depth ones, the human rights one at the moment, and maybe some of the fiction ones are pretty interesting too. But I like them for different reasons. I'll have to move on quickly now. Carrie, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name, Carrie maybe, or Carrie. Roland, which part of Ireland do you live in? I don't live in Ireland, I live in Madrid, but I am from Bray, which is about 20 miles south of Dublin. So that's where I live, or that's where I am at present, but I don't live there. I live in Madrid. How well are we teaching and fostering critical thinking? David Fraser, great question. I don't think we are at all, really. I think the notion of being well-rounded thinkers is completely at odds with what modern education seems to want to create specialists, you know, so very deep knowledge in a very narrow vein, and I think that's definitely problematic. Also, in terms of like capitalism, if you have loads of people who are reading Tolstoy and learning French and understanding critical thinking and logic in a deep way, they're probably not very good consumers. So I think specialists, it's very central specialists, and then kind of people who are just, you know, have maybe who don't know a lot in other areas, make choices quickly and all that kind of stuff, and don't weigh up stuff, is probably kind of better in a way for making money, I suppose, and for consumerism and capitalism. So I think because of the way our societies are, there's not enough emphasis on creating well-rounded thinkers. So I think we're not doing it very well in most societies. In Ireland, I don't think it all happens. Critical thinking, philosophy, it's kind of forgotten about. I think it should be one of the core subjects for, like, you know, with maybe mathematics in Ireland, mathematics, Ireland, Irish and English. And I think critical thinking should be also one of those. Anonymous, can you provide an example of a piece of writing that lacked these values and explain how it could have been improved? Loads of them. I would say even things that I agree with. I can't give you one off the top of my head, and I wouldn't like to vilify a writer. At least I can talk about them in an article or in comments, but I wouldn't do it here. But loads of them, even ones I agree with, oftentimes they don't really back up what they're saying with much information. There's some clickbait, and I might even agree sometimes with what's said, but I agree with it possibly for the wrong reasons, and I don't think that they're being honest in how they've dealt with the question. The question, that was anonymous. The next one, Sarah Ristine. The question segment has not been working on this platform for me. How do you infuse humor into the darker topics? It depends on the topic. I think you just need to choose your moments. You know, I think there should always be, even in the darkest moments, you could kind of have with the darkest topics, you could have a little bit of humor involved, but it shouldn't be juxtaposed with something, you know, like some reference of a genocide and then something funny. But at a certain point in the article, you could easily kind of not joke about genocide, but you could easily make a joke about, you know, make a lighthearted joke or make even a dark joke in a certain part. So I think it's all about just finding the right timing for it. Grode McColgan. Thanks, Harold. Enjoyed the talk. Any hints about what your own opinions will be in your next article on human rights? I think they should be grounded in constitutions. I think they need to be chosen. If they're going to be international, they need to be chosen and agreed upon. I think internationally it's kind of a nightmare to do it, because these powerful states aren't going to cede power and go, yes, well, if we impinge upon one of these rights, then, you know, you can kind of intervene. It's kind of absurd to even think that a state like China or the US or Russia would agree to this. So it's a very difficult one, but I think you need to be more, we need to be a little bit more honest about what's possible with human rights and what are the implications of it. Can you, Anonymous, can you tell us your favorite article you've written and why? I think I already addressed that with Brodie Fitzgerald, so there are definitely a few of them. Mary Reinbold, how should you respond to negativity about what you've written? If somebody is being nasty from the start, there are a few people who I've blocked. If they're nasty from the start, I would block them. If there's one or two who I completely disagree with, but they're always respectful enough that I just leave them. So with politeness and respect, but that should be reciprocal. So they need to have on their side the same politeness, respect, civility. And if they don't, I wouldn't really deal with them. So there's nothing wrong with negativity. I think if you're going to deal with these topics, it can be a bit stressful, but I think it's part of growth as well. E.T., what was your next? I already answered that one. Okay. So Monica Anderson, I've made a note. What would it mean for me to tell the truth as it pertains to my writing? Thoughts for sake of discussion. Yeah, that would be, if you're asking, would that be a great thing to write about? Yeah, that would be a great thing to write about. Octaviana Tornia, how do you choose your topics for writing an article? I have a book, a copy book, which is actually just here, and another one, and I write down ideas when they come to my mind, and I usually have a lot of them, and I write them down. I try to take a note of them. I also, if there's something that's really at the moment present, and very much pressing and current, I would try to write about it if it piques my interest. So if you find something that's really important now, I would write about it. And these are, I think they're called, I forget the name they use on Medium, but there's evergreen articles which are always going to be profitable, maybe climate change or human rights or some, eternal human issues. Whereas something about, something that happened to a particular person is going to be a current topic. So if you're going to write about it, it has to be when it happens. So record everything you have and anything that comes to mind. Have a pen and a pen and paper always handy, and record everything you can. And be a magpie, find bits and pieces. The way, be looking around to find stuff. Other writers are a great source as well. Are your three values ever at odds with each other? Yeah, definitely. It's an excellent question by Roy Mars. Yes, definitely. Sometimes, there's sometimes I was going to make a point and I didn't have the evidence for it, and I didn't really have, I think it was more something that I would like to say, but I don't think I'm comfortable enough with saying it, and I don't think I have enough evidence to back it up, really. So I think it's too much of my kind of personal opinion. It's too particular. And so sometimes I would edit things out, and I think, well, I just don't have enough grounds to say that at the moment. So, there are a lot of people I agree with certain, with regard to certain topics, but it doesn't mean necessarily that I agree with their kind of ways of going about things. And I would like to try and be, not be another voice that just adds to the murkiness and the hate and all that kind of stuff. But so sometimes it means refraining from saying things, removing certain things that you might want to say. Ed England, honesty and truth is an individual perspective. How do you choose your perspective? Yeah, truth is a complex thing. It's way beyond this presentation. There's the kind of wokest idea of your truth, everyone having their own truth, which we do in a way, but there are also general truths that are imputed by the reality in which we live. So there's crossover between these, and then there's a lack of crossover sometimes. So truth is a difficult one to pin down. How do you choose your perspective? I suppose I kind of weigh up things, look at things. I have my own kind of values that are beyond the ones I've mentioned here. I would always be somewhere on the left, probably a traditional left-wing kind of thinker. Inequality and the need for moral reasons, for economic reasons, for reasons of political stability, to limit inequality as much as possible is a deep notion for me. So that's something that's always been around, and that could appear in any article I would write about, like climate change or human rights or anything like that. So I got a few more. Anonymous, what is your next what will your next article be about? It will be about Steve Jobs, maybe. And I'm not sure how this ended the session, or is it still recording? I think it is still recording. It will be about Steve Jobs, maybe, or it will be about human rights again. I'm just checking something here about human rights again. This will be what I might write about human rights. I wanted to write about something about racism in comedy, and there was an issue in Ireland at some stage, and I was going to use that as and I think I need to go. I think that's probably enough. And my name on Medium is Harold the Gush. Harold the Gush. So Christopher Aiden, I'll try to write you down. I'll write those names down here, and I'll find you on Medium now. Thank you very much. I've gone over, of course, bad planning, but also just very interesting discussing, and also the questions didn't come through for a while. So it was a pleasure to talk to you all and to present the Controversy, Honesty and Truth. And I thank you again to Medium, and thank you all for attending and your wonderful questions as well. So it was a real pleasure, and I hope you sincerely have a really good day. Okay, good luck and good day.